Well then, right.
Okay, so this is kind of action support and how that kind of works. Uh, Colonel got the word to me back in March that the cops had told the folks that were sleeping out for the city hall that the sleeping platforms were being declared illegal. So he says, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to challenge that and I'm going to get arrested. So I was standing by, I was on the scene in the Portland City Hall log as a person on the scene when he was arrested there that March, middle of the cold, not quite freezing night, but anyhow, it was in the low 30s. And so anyhow, I was there and I sat in on the trial and I had the gas of going out with everybody else when the fire alarm went off and the entire courthouse had to be vacated right in the middle of his trial in August. And so some of this stuff was just fun, just to be part of. Well, the other night when the storm was coming in, he came down and he says, I'm going to build a shelter and I'm going to challenge that and I'm going to go to jail. That was what he told me. And if he's willing to get arrested, I'm willing to, participate. So the concept was to put something where we could be out of the weather while we're doing our petition, which is, we're doing a statement under Article 1, Section 8, our free expression, and the medium is the message. Hey, it's cold and rainy, and we need to have a shelter, so we're going to do that. So what are materials? He says, well, I've got this tarp. And I said, okay, do we have some rope? Yeah, we have some rope. Somebody have a knife? Okay, yeah, we have a knife, so we cut the rope. We've got a tarp. So what else have you got? He said, well, I've got these fiberglass tent poles. I'm like, no problem, we're done. He says, no, but you can't use them. Because he's going to redesign the Vigil temple there, and that's what he had those for. So he and I go back 20 odd years, and they've been
Odd.
He visited me in prison when I was in the penitentiary on my pot bus because he was down in Salem. So we know each other. He was my landlord in the mid '90s.
I didn't
so,
know that.
Yeah. So anyhow, we know how to get along and not get along, and we know how to to put up with each other's crap because that's what friends do. So. Okay, I'm supposed to facilitate. Okay, we're gonna do this shelter thing. I have some engineering stuff, so I decided that what we would do is we'd use all our stuff. So we had the total MacGyver, from the TV show. We had a total MacGyver up and make this thing work. Well, we look around. What do we got? What do we got? Well, we've got this 15-foot or so long round dowel rod that was the banner holder for the Global Noise Solidarity.
Oh, that's what you
Portland,
guys
Oregon.
used.
That's what we got. So we had that.
I gotta look for the footage, like you said. See if we have
We
it.
had 99's bicycle that somehow ended
That's
up.
our bicycle. It belongs to Neil.
I don't know whose bicycle it was, but
It's
99.
our community bicycle given to
Yeah, it
us
was
to
the
use
bike.
by Neil.
Okay, but we refer to that on that moment as 99's bicycle
Right.
because he was the one we had to get it. Can we use this bike? Whose
Yeah.
bike is this?
Definitely
Okay,
in charge.
so that's why
Bike.
we called it 99's bicycle. Okay, so the idea was to use all our stuff, not touch the city tree, even with our shelter, and not touch any of the news boxes or lamp posts or trees or anything to fasten our stuff. So we had to gravity secure it, and we had to suspend it all with our stuff. So what we did was we cantilevered the pole from the ground up over the bike, where we lashed it to the bike frame right by the bike seat, and that pole angled up, so the front of the pole was probably about 9 feet up, and we had to kind of massage the tree branches to make sure that it wasn't touching the tree. And then we put the tarp over it, and we secured the tarp with some weights that we had that were these metal discs that had a place we could loop something on. And then we had the box, the green box, which was a bike trailer, and we had Colonel's bike trailer, and that held the tarp on one side. It went up over the middle of the tarp, over the dowel at this angle that we had established, and then down the other side where it was supported by weights. And we had 6 to 8 people, I wasn't counting at the moment, sitting inside around that in a little circle, and we had a coffee pot on the stove, and the coffee was percolating when the squad car pulled out, and the cop looks out the window and gets his flashlight out and confirms that indeed he can see coffee percolating inside our structure. So, they kind of go off like a firecracker because this is exactly what's not supposed to be happening. And so he gets out. He said, "This is a shelter," and I'm kind of like, 99 and Colonel and a bunch of other folks were over at the Justice Center, so the guy who said he was going to be arrested wasn't even on the scene when the cops came up and said, "This is going to go, or you're going to go to jail."
I know what's going to happen next.
So,
because Colonel just told us.
So they came back as I got on the scooter and I went down there and I was amazed that they had all, on whatever mission they were on, were crossing the street in my direction. So I didn't have to round them up. They were already in the process of coming back, and I'm kind of like, "Hey, your ride's here." They're like, "What? The cops are over here." And so, long story short, the police had to come out of their squad cars and stand in the rain while we had a discussion that hopefully we have on 99's filming of it, but certainly the police were recording. And then we ended up with 5 squad cars on this block, and they were telling us that it was a structure, and Colonel, who had already been found not guilty and participated in the analysis at the trial, as I did, we heard all the legal arguments, and that's why he was found not guilty. So that's the people that we're talking as, and the cops are like, "No, you can't do this." And those were the cops in March, right? That's what their attitude was, and the court found them not to have been correct. So as the people that have already participated in a successful story, we're telling them, we don't believe that what we're doing is against the law. Right. We're petitioning our government. That we're telling City Hall.
The operating thing here to me is that it's so similar to the night after the camp was disbanded and we were still in, right here between the Portland Building and City Hall. Because while the cops came with their ice cream trucks and actually told us that they were going to use force and mace and whatever else they said, and they're on their megaphones saying this, somebody's like, "Well, let's have our GA now." And so we had like a 3-hour General Assembly while the cops are, they said, "We just told you that we were going to mace you," and instead we're like, "Okay, just a minute, we're having our General Assembly." And they actually didn't seem to know what to do about that, and we kept, going through these. You know how GAs can be long and drawn out. Should we ratify it with the word "a" or "the"? And then, all these, That's exactly what it was. It was, this. And what was really funny is we were talking about whether or not it was really wise to be in this sniper hole, or whether we could just go somewhere and talk about it, say, out in the open, like Pioneer Square, which is what I was hoping for. But it was getting dark, it was getting scary, these cops were getting aggro, and yet at the same time, they just had to sit through this boring GA. It must have been so surreal. I can't say it was boring, because the cops kind of livened it up. And next time GA is extremely boring, I suppose we could invite them, but that was...
Well, they're there already. So you just don't necessarily know who they are.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of what you guys did. Colonel's like, "Okay, but I have to ask my people," and then goes over and talks, and like, we'll go talk to them again. And he goes and talks, and the cop's like, "We're not here to have you have a meeting about it. We're here to have you take it down."
Yeah, well, what the thing was is it really we at that point what kind of startled me was that people were already acquiescing to the police and were starting to take the thing down, and I was like, "Hey, it's not your thing to be taken down just because, if they want to take it down."
If I had a nickel for every time somebody tried to acquiesce to a cop for something that belonged to me.
I had to unvolunteer the volunteers that were doing what the cops said, because,
And it puts you in an awkward spot when you have to say, "No, don't cooperate." And then,
the upshot
is,
then the punchline, other than the percolating coffee, which was just the height of timing on their part.
Why do you have a television set in there?
So the upshot is we elected that no, we're going to take the tarp down. That still left the bike, and that still left the pole.
Well, as Colonel
And we
told it,
took the
as Colonel told it, he even tried to like leave it draped like a flag, and the cop wanted it all the way on the ground.
No, they wanted us to take the tarp off. Well, we discussed if, push came to shove, we would simply hold the tarp up like a big hat if we needed to with 8 people. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like it was going to go away. So here's what happened. 5 cop cars are out here. We're telling them we're protected under the law. We believe that what we're doing is right. Moses, of course, saying, what do you think the structure is? Because, under the construction of the law, my shoes are defined as a structure because he sat through the trial. That's the legal analysis in Oregon that he already went through. So it sounds absurd to a cop who's standing out in the rain talking to somebody and they're saying, well, what do you think his structure is? According to his shoe, which sounds pretty absurd.
Right,
But
and,
that
and
was
let
one
me
of the
let me
things
explain
that
for the
we talked about
viewers
at the trial,
that
was
at the
the sleeping
trial,
platform.
at the sleeping platform, which I am on one tonight. The reason that Colonel won is because structure is not defined, and so you have to go to the context of the law and the dictionary definition, and what they came up with was like a building. That's the context. So it's not like your shoe, because City Hall has been trying to tell us that a structure is anything that holds anything, and they especially don't like it if it holds a person. But anything that holds anything and keeps it propped up or whatever would be your shoe. So but what's really interesting to me, Barry, is I don't think anybody's really picked up on this. I keep saying it. The sidewalk ordinance actually outside the pedestrian use zone allows structures. So this
Yeah,
part of the
well, and it
sidewalk,
allows people are allowed to sleep, and that's what when
yeah, but did you know
Amanda
it allows
Frisch,
structures? Structures are allowed on the sidewalk if
yeah,
it's outside the pedestrian use
of
zone.
course, that's what all
So
these news boxes are.
right, and nobody seems to be, really running with that. But the fact that Colonel even had to argue that this wasn't a structure, this platform, he
Right,
shouldn't have because it's outside of the area where that would even be a problem. Same
right,
with
right,
abating a nuisance is it's
right.
provision L in that PCC. So it's not
Yeah.
even you have to be
So,
breaking the ordinance to begin with, and we're not when we're in this zone. So
the upshot is 5 police cars, 4 you know cars, and an
I think
SUV
Benny Hill.
here on the block, and they're all forced out of their vehicles into the rainstorm that we put this thing up to.
Because we're
Right,
trying to keep
right.
dry. They have
Okay,
to all
so
get
they have to
wet to
get wet,
stop us
right?
from staying
That's all
dry.
right.
That's such a,
Okay, yeah. So this is why this is such a comedy routine.
what do you call
Okay,
that kind of irony?
we take
Poetic
a
justice.
as we're and it was kind of it wasn't the most comfortable moment when we're finally I don't want to say caving in, but we're taking down the tarp because we decided, okay, we're not going to go to jail over this.
Right.
Okay,
It
so we get to
it
pick our
wasn't what
battles, and that
he was
was
waiting for the morning.
so what we yeah so what we did was we took the tarp down, and the only thing that upset me, other than the volunteer that preceded us,
Right.
was and not knowing how to do it because he didn't know the thing that he was taking apart. So anyhow, the point is the coffee pot got spilled on the ground, and I'm like, oh no, the coffee got spilled. And they're like, don't worry, the pot that we were perking is in the thermos already. This was a new pot that somebody was in the process of starting again. And so it was really not coffee that was finished. And so my being upset over, crying over spilt milk, it was spilt coffee that wasn't that big of a deal
Right,
in the
right. It
scheme of
was
things.
too weak.
Then I
Well,
get
that's
my
good.
coffee, and
Don't mess with this coffee, ladies
before
and
I'm done
gentlemen.
drinking my cup of coffee, it stopped raining.
Good.
So
Yeah,
we didn't need the tarp anyhow.
yeah, well, Colonel said that the cops kind of didn't mess with you guys until it was lightening up on the rain, and then by the time that you had to take it down, it wasn't raining.
Right, but they were by the time we took it down and it stopped raining, they were still in their bulletproof vests that were out in the rainstorm talking to us. So we were dry as much as they were.
You know, the fact that they're policing people staying dry and getting wet to do it
Yeah.
is really funny. Like I said, this is poetic
Yeah, it's
justice.
like it was so that's what you never know.
Except they don't have to go and sleep outside after they get wet.
Yeah, but I did it, and I'm still here.
Yeah, but in the winter, once you get wet, you're screwed.
Yeah, we have to be. Well, that's the whole point of this, isn't it? Uh,
Right.
when it was, it's
They're going to
bizarre.
see us, and it's going to suck, and they're going to see people, and they're going to have to stomach what is happening.
It's
Because other people are having it happen all over the city.
Oh,
And I really like the fact that, because, I don't know, I'm kind of looking forward. Last winter, I got freaked out, Barry.
did you? Before
I
I
got
forget,
I got afraid of rain.
before I forget, our miracle dream product is that we really know what to do. Is Grifflon, and it's a UV inhibited greenhouse fabric, and they use it on construction sites because it doesn't blow apart and it's strong.
Is
And
that the black?
no, it's so he has these fence posts. I mean, not what am I saying? Tent posts that he's got, the fiberglass tent posts that he had to build his structure. So he builds this dome, and he says to me, "Hey, do you know where to get some Grifflon?"
Is that what's on there now?
Wait, let me
Oh,
finish it.
good.
So I
Sorry.
so I say to so I say to him,
This better not be illegal.
I say
Okay.
to him, I don't. No, I don't know where to buy Grifflon, but I know where there is some Grifflon. There's some on Next Adventure. And I said, maybe you can get some of that. So I tell him, hey, there's a story about the landlord, and they come into the house, and the tenants have completely trashed it. And on the floor, the carpeting's cut out in the shape of the floor mats for the car. I said, do not go over there and cut a Vigil Dome-sized Grifflon off of the building. Right? Don't be so obvious. He goes over and he talks to the foreman, and the foreman cuts the stuff off, and that's what's out there right now on the
Okay.
dome.
Okay.
Grifflon. We don't know where to buy
I
it.
love that story,
We don't know where
though.
to buy it. But we didn't have to buy it.
Yeah.
Because, and my joke about
I love that
the
story.
about
It's
the
like the best
landlord,
story
the
ever.
worst tenants ever, right? Where they cut their carpeting to make floor mats in the car because
That's
they're cutting out, man.
that's really funny.
That was
I
my
don't condone this behavior,
no,
but it's really,
but
really
my
funny.
message to him was, don't go over there and cut a Vigil Dome
Yeah, we
size.
don't want to see a big circle with
Whatever it is, right? Because it's going to be living out here at City Hall with us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that was that.
That's
The
so
Grifflon.
funny.
We still don't know where to buy
So
it.
what is the Grifflon?
It's a
What's this is a special material. It looks really great.
that's what okay, ORS 466.265 provides for in an urban growth boundary as a interim measure for transitional housing, we can have a yurt village, and the yurt is defined in that section of the law. You get on there and read it as a yurt, a round structure, the outside wall and
Yeah.
canvas or tarp or whatever it is, and plumbing and electricity. That is permitted by the state of Oregon law.
And we can
So
have one.
we can do that
Just
in
one.
the city of Portland. No, a yurt village.
Yeah, but just one yurt village. Because didn't you say that you could only have two of these whatevers and there's
well,
already
okay,
one?
well that's the problem is that we have the technology to really economically give people a place that has electricity and plumbing. And I tell City Hall this, City Council, they all know I've said this again, and I'll say it right here. The Clydesdales get to camp in Waterfront Park when they come here for the Rose Parade. But people with 60% of the homeless count in January is persons with physically disabling conditions. We know that the people that are sleeping in doorways that can't have a shelter, because we know what the cops did that rainy night to us, they're not offering people any respite from the torture when the gateway to ending that torture is already paved by the legislation that the sausage factory down in Salem, the House, the Senate, and the executive either validated that, signed it off, and signed the law, or they overrode that with the supermajority, overrode the veto. I don't know that it was vetoed, but we have a provision that we're allowed to have transitional housing, and they won't let us have it because they're mean. Okay, so
Will they let us have it?
Grifflon is a fabric, and if that might be a brand name, that's all we call it, and it's woven with reinforcements in a kind of
It's
a
kind
grid
of similar
pattern,
to that strapping tape, except it's grid.
and it's importantly uh, got the chemical makeup that allows it to endure the invisible rays of sunlight that degrade other films. It's called outgassing, when the plastic turns into stuff comes out of the plastic, and the stuff that comes out is the stuff that keeps it from getting brittle. So if you've had some plastic you stretched out in your yard to make a cold frame, and you went out there the next year and it was blowing around in little pieces, that's because of the degradation. This product lasts for years, and they
So,
use it on construction sites, like I said,
okay.
Next Adventure. And so he went over there and got it from those folks
You know, it's
because they're
interesting. If
using it
that
on
Vigil
construction.
table had been inside the Griffon, then it wouldn't have degraded in this way that it did.
Well, that's part of our learning curve and our courage curve
Bigger and
to actually
better.
go across the river and be a guy that's done construction like Colonel has, and talk to a guy on the scene and have him say, "Yeah, let me get you this," and then
Colonel has a way
come over here to
about
this.
getting people on his side who,
But
you
this
know,
is a beautiful, elegant
yeah. And
structure.
there's something about the Vigil too. It evolves. The
Yeah.
Vigil has never been. It was getting stuck because it was a form that was very certain, whereas in the past, the Vigil has wandered back and forth across City Hall in 2 locations. It has morphed to different tables,
You
different
know,
domes. And now it's morphed again into this dome, and
on,
there's an entirely different set of objects than there had been a month ago, and the month before, and the month before.
can I tell you about the 2 locations? We set up over here. The first time I came was I got the wind that he did it, and he came out here. And I think it was maybe Friday at 4:20 on December 1st, and I came by on Sunday, and he said, "Yeah, I'm just wondering who's going to do graveyard shift." And so I stood by and made sure that graveyard shift happened, and there were people that came, and
This
and
was
there
back when we
and
actually sat at the Vigil 24/7 and tried to keep the candle lit the whole time.
to make it be there and guarded and be vigilant.
Because
And
we didn't have any kind of acceptance in writing.
right,
It was kind of like we had to be there or they would just tear it down.
yeah,
And
yeah,
funny thing is that the city, like always, the city, in trying to be passive aggressive, actually ended up institutionalizing our right to be there for all to see,
right.
because they said you can only be on this area, and actually hired people to make a landscape diagram devoted to tell us where we could and couldn't be. And that's where Troy Rule number 8 is. No climbing City Hall, which cracks me up. Anyway,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
all of that was this passive aggressive attempt to slam us. But what they did is they etched in stone all the places we could have this vigil. And there's quite a lot of space there. And I'm not
Yeah.
even sure that it says only one vigil per customer, because I believe that they've actually carved out a huge swath of area on both sides that we could actually put stuff up.
Well, here, let me give you the update on two things. One is the then, and one is the now. When I first came and did whatever stints I pulled at the vigil here in December,
In
uh,
your orange pants.
oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
never forget.
So okay, so when I was doing that, the pressure was they want us to move over there, and so when the move over there happened, the over here got caught in a wind gust and got moved over there. And we just let it go where the wind took it. We didn't take it there. A wind gust blew the vigil structure across from where we had it to where the wind took it. So we didn't do it. The wind did it.
Right.
But it happened to be moving it to where they wanted it to be. So that's a
But
little
it's
bit
been
of
back and
that's a little
forth.
bit of magic. But anyhow, the other thing was the square box that was out here ended up
Oh, let
on
me
this
ask.
side of
This
this
guy's
sign.
named Ben, right?
Yeah.
Let's ask Ben if he wants his phone.
Okay, but
Hold
let
on.
me wrap this up. It only
Wait,
takes.
wait. Hey, Ben, I got your phone. Is
Oh,
that Ben?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, say okay. So
Can
anyhow,
let's get it out for him.
on this side of the on the 5-minute sign where Ben just got up, right where he's at was the card table with the plastic frame, you know, the wood frame with plastic on it, and we decided.
You want to open the door for him?
Yeah,
Hand that to him.
no, he's coming back.
Okay.
The next morning,
Don't look too close.
that was still there, and we decided, thanks to the Epic Times self selecting to move their box down at the end of the block by the USA Today box, we decided that we could consolidate the row of newspaper boxes by moving the Willamette Week up a couple, because it wasn't chained to anything, up a couple spaces and fill up and make a solid line of newspaper boxes instead of the gap that the removal of the Epic Times made. And since the Willamette Week was on the end of that row, we moved the former vigil structure down there to become an information booth. Then we got the
Hi, Fuzzit.
agenda for the coordinating committee to end homelessness, and we put that in there. And we got brochures from the various agencies, and we had those in there. And then the next day, the police decided that that wasn't an information booth and took it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
After removing some of our information, which was that purple book that showed all of the codes
yeah,
that they were
They
using.
took it out. We still have that.
Yeah.
But that's the
But I mean,
information.
they had to remove the information in order to tell us that it wasn't an information booth.
And we're permitted to have a table as long as somebody's there staffing it. And we were.
And DJ was there.
Right. And the other angle is the box. Somebody kept coming by and tagging with a zip tie and putting a tag on them. You'll maybe get one of those to show your viewers. But the tag says, "This bicycle appears to be abandoned. If it's here for more than 72 hours, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that." Well, the two things about that is, one, it wasn't abandoned. It was a bike trailer, so we'll say that that's close enough that they're considering that a bicycle. But when we built the structure with the pole that was the former banner holder for the march, when we did that, one of the things that we secured it with was the green box. So we moved it down there for that, and when the police said take all the stuff apart, we moved it back up there, and it was certainly not there for 72 hours. And we were present when the guy comes along and zip ties on this tag that says, "This bicycle appears to be abandoned." And
Right,
they did that
as opposed to the
repeatedly.
bicycle over there that has been there for 2 months.
Right. So here's where they've really stepped in it big time. Any of these news boxes here are under the same provision that because the use of the public space has to be content neutral. So if you want to have the Epic Times or you want to have the not Epic Times, you can have both of those, and if they want to regulate one, they have to regulate the other. It has to be, all the things have to be content neutral. So likewise,
Right,
with
I
the
heard you say
enforcement.
this too. So
Yeah.
not to double up,
Yeah.
but the idea that you can't selectively decide that this paper isn't legitimate and this one is.
Right, or
That's not the
this
state's.
person, right? And so what irks me is a person who goes from the other side of Burnside up 4th Avenue and makes my rounds, whatever it is that where I'm transversing through the day, I will see
Oh,
people
say
sleeping.
goodbye to Fuzzit. Bye, Fuzzit. But Fuzzit's our viewer,
Oh,
one of our viewers.
thanks for watching, Fuzzit.
Going to work.
This is archived, so you can pick it up. And thanks for working. the point is that when I come up here, I can see dozens or maybe even scores of people that are sleeping in doorways of businesses that are closed for the evening, doorways of businesses that are abandoned. I mean, they're currently like they're for lease, and so people be there. But anyhow, the upshot is, as I come here, I see people that are seeking shelter, making their own improvised devices to get through the weather conditions. And then I come up here about 3 blocks away, and there's a bunch of folks sitting in chairs waiting for Apple Store or something to open up so they can get their new product. And then one of the provisions of the sidewalk obstruction ordinance, the sidewalk management ordinance, is that that doesn't count if you're waiting in line for something to open up. So the folks down there are down there with blankets and chairs, structures. And they're in the pedestrian use
Can we
zone.
wait for City Hall to open?
Well, that's the extreme
Well, we need to use
bias.
the bathroom.
The bias that's
So
out.
if I can actually just be out here because I'm waiting for the City Hall.
I don't get to use the bathroom.
Right. I'm
Here
sorry.
at Portland City Hall.
I keep
where I'm
taunting
excluded.
him with
Well,
the
it's
City
okay
Hall property.
because here's the bizarre thing. I did read the trespass exclusion notice after I got out of custody because it was in my pants pocket when I dressed out in the clothes that I had on that morning. In the pants pocket was the trespass exclusion that everybody, including myself, was trying to find. What the heck does this thing say? I want to see what happened. Lucky for me, when I was in the Justice Center jail and I didn't get any treatment for my neuropathic pain condition, that my neurologist said it would be a matter of hours or days before I had intractable neuropathic pain. Lucky for me, I have coping mechanisms. The day before I bailed out, I walked 60 stories up 7 steps to the landing, up 7 more steps to the second tier. That's 1 up. That down. I did 60 of those in a row.
And that
because
helps?
I can generate endorphins because they weren't giving me medical treatment. So had I read the absolute fabrication that's in that trespass exclusion, that would have sickened me. So it was kind of a mixed bag. One, I didn't get it. But in that, of course, it says, I have 5 days from the issuance of the hearing. Well, I was in here on the 28th, the day that they issued the exclusion. So I was violating it because they issued it that day. So that day I was in there using the telephone. And I'd actually called my...
But you didn't know when you went into City Hall to talk.
Here's what happened. I am a client of the Multnomah County Health Department Westside Clinic. And because of the nature of my disability, I have a communications information specialist. That gal got laid off. So I kind of got my own private sector. Somebody stepped up to play that role. So I call my communications information specialist, somebody that knows not to have me sickened by an emotional shock and knows how to buffer the impact on my neuropathic pain condition, which is the tortures of the damned, and is second only to cancer pain in its difficulty to manage. It's a whole new disease on a molecular basis, and that's what my neurologist, who operated the brain lab and taught OHSU's neurology classes, that's what he said down here at the courthouse. So I know of what he speaks. It's not anything I can really afford to mess around with. But here I am sidetracked into that. So the issue is the trespass exclusion provides for a hearing if I request it within 5 days. Well, I didn't get out until 28 days after, so that wasn't, oh my gosh, we can't give you a hearing, you didn't ask for it in 5 days. Well, the other thing is, the places I'm excluded from are certainly not narrowly tailored to affect the compelling government interest. I'm excluded from the Portland building. Cameron Whitten says, hey, are you going to the lobbying meeting because City Hall's considering what they're going to lobby for on the federal level and on the state level for changes in laws.
You are excluded from...
I couldn't go to that public hearing because I'm excluded from the Portland building, right? Then the place where
you couldn't file a complaint because you couldn't go into the complaint office. I remember that one.
Say I have an appeal. And I have this paperwork, and within the 5 days...
But how are you getting excluded?
Well,
different ways, right?
Hang on.
I can't stand the whole story.
Okay,
you have
so
to shorten it.
this exclusion notice that tells me that if I cross the line of the fence, so I can't go to the vigil, if I cross the line of that fence, I will be aggressively prosecuted for criminal trespasses. So I'm not allowed to go over there without getting arrested. So that's what they're thinking, and that's what they're going to do. So anyhow, my point is had I, within 5 days, scheduled, requested an appeal, I had a hearing to appeal this thing, to challenge it, that would go in front of an administrative law judge as a part of the hearings office that does decisions on city issues, like your car was towed illegally or you have a land use, conditional use permit. They'll have a hearings officer hear the case and render a decision. Well, that takes place in the city of Portland, up the street at 1900 Southwest 4th Avenue, where I'm excluded from as part of the exclusion notice. So when I go up the street and get the plot map that tells me the right-of-way in front of City Hall, I go up to the planning department of 1900 Southwest 4th. When I founded the Camp for Homeless People, Free Camp David W. Crowther, I went and got the plot map that showed the city's right-of-way, which is a blackberry patch. I got that at 1900 Southwest 4th. When I got the brochures that said remove invasive plants, plant native plants, I got those over here at the Bureau of Environmental Services that produces that for the City of Portland. And the City of Portland's right-of-way that I researched up the street that I turned into the homeless camp a couple of years ago, that is covered with the invasive species plants that the Bureau of Environmental Services says remove invasive plants, exclamation point. So I found the city's brochures that said, get rid of this stuff. It's on the right-of-way. It's the city's responsibility to maintain that right-of-way. And they have excluded me from the places where I get this documentation to share with the public. I cannot go to there. I can't go to that place.
Right. So somebody would have to go in for you.
And they have.
Yeah.
But
you know
they're
what?
not me, and they don't know how to do it as efficiently as I can. So.
But of all the buildings that you're excluded from,
Uh-huh.
and why and what you needed to go in there for, I'm bored now.
Okay. It's an exciting thing. Officer Palmer in uniform, right out here, 1:30 the day before I got arrested, August 28th. He's standing out here, and I went up to him after explaining why our encounter in the morning had transpired the way it did. I said, look, if I would have put my hand on your vest the way you put your hand on my vest, you would have arrested me. And he said, I didn't put my hand on your vest. I put my hand on your shoulder. Well, I have the same vest on. He went like this, and that's where my vest is, on my shoulder. So,
right.
Okay, so I said, that's absolutely absurd. Okay, he ends up escalating, and he yells as I'm walking away, get the fuck out of here. At 1:30 p.m. on the public sidewalk as a uniformed officer, he's yelling that to me. And I return my response is, I'm already signed up on the agenda for tomorrow morning at City Council, and I'm going to tell him what you just did, and that's going to go out on the internet. That day, they trumped up the trespass exclusion, and the next morning, that officer arrested me.
What was the trespass exclusion that they trumped up? I thought it was already in place.
No, I hadn't been served. I had no knowledge of it. The day before, I talked to my friend. He said they're going to try. They're trying to do something to exclude you from all city property. I don't know what that's about.
Right.
But he got that message because that was filtering through the Multnomah County Health Department.
Wow.
So anyhow, they know what they're doing, and they know who they're doing it to. And I already have the issue of, when I went in this last time, I was in for 4 calendar weeks, and I didn't get anything for my neuropathic pain condition. When I advised them of that, I told them that before I went in, I had already filed with Sergeant Scott Johnson of the Multnomah County Sheriff Department Internal Affairs. Every time I go into the Multnomah County Sheriff's custody, I don't get treatment for my very difficult central pain condition that's well documented. How come this happens every time? And then the next week, I went in for 4 weeks with no medical treatment.
What did they say?
On the 11th, I wrote a letter, September 11th. I went in on the 28th. I told them as soon as I could, I did the medical request form. It's not like I'm a new guy in their system because, I informed them before I went in 2004 for this bogus pot thing I had, and they knew I was coming in, and they did the same thing. For 10 days, I didn't get medical treatment. I had a doctor's appointment at the Multnomah County Detention Center. That's what it's called. It's a Justice Center jail to everybody that goes there. But they transported me to the Multnomah County Inverness Jail and said I didn't have an appointment. And then the last day of my 10 days, they transported me to the Justice Center jail and let me out. So that was in 2004. So I filed that in federal court as Stoll versus Gusto, and because I had all these other things like, you know, the unending stream of oppression, I didn't have the chance to actually research. I should have done the case as Multnomah County instead of the sheriff, just for technical reasons, because that's how you sue the government. So anyhow, it doesn't really matter, because I went in July. They didn't give me medical treatment until I gave July 19th, when I got arrested for, apparently I haven't read the police report, because I have to buffer myself about that, because apparently they arrested me because I summoned an ambulance. And rather than let me get into the ambulance, they arrested me for calling the ambulance. Portland police did that. Earlier that day, I had an appointment at the Multnomah County West Side Clinic, and I was arrested there. The officer that arrested me there is the officer that arrested me when I did a action. I went into the lawyer's office that was opposing me, and I said, I'm here to get a check for $4,700 or to go to jail. They called the cop. The cop arrested me. He put a Y on my name, and now I have, on all my charging instruments and on my appeal in the Court of Appeals, I must do this, Barry Joe Stoll, a.k.a. Barry Joe Stully. The cop that did that, Stully Creation. And they actually have a birth date that we celebrated here in August, his 50th birthday. Kill Stully. Stully must die. That's what I did. I created an effigy, and we had the thing in Commander Day, and I think it was Mike Kuykendall all walked past, and they're going, what the heck is going on here? And I said, your guy created this person. You created this AKA. You created the birthday of August 13th, 1962. My birthday is September 24th, 1958. They completely made up that character. And when you read my paperwork, Barry Joe Stoll, a.k.a. Barry Joe Stoley, it's like I did that. No, they did it. And the cop that did that in 2009 arrested me on July 19th.
Minutia, though.
The day before Cameron's fair housing.
Isn't it?
So I got arrested twice on July 19th. First time at my doctor's appointment.
You made an entire effigy doll over and celebration over the fact that somebody added a Y to your name and screwed up your birth date.
No, I have on every charging instrument, it's Barry Joe Stoll, September 24th, 1958, a.k.a. Barry Joe Stully, August 13th, 1962.
Oh, I can't.
Every background check that I have shows me as a person with an AKA. The AKA was a product of the Portland police officer.
Making a mistake.
Oh, right. That's my mistake. And every mistake that they make, they forgot to give me medical treatment every time I went to jail.
They made a mistake, and now it looks like you have had an alias when they actually just had.
And I'm saying the fourth time I was arrested, between the 14th of July and the 19th of July. The first time I was arrested on July 19th, it was the cop that gave me the AKA. The second time I was arrested, it was Sergeant Holbrook, who was on the scene when Colonel was arrested for the sleeping platform in March, where I was on the scene. That's how we started this whole story about me and my presence and doing the sport on these actions.
Right. Well.
Okay, so I was arrested.
Why?
But why what?
Why the Stolly thing? Are we coming back to? How do we get on the why?
Okay, all I'm saying is.
Why the why?
When they created an AKA that I must use.
Oh,
when I appeal a case in the Court of Appeals,
you have to write your
I have
AKA.
To write AKA Barry Joe
my
Stully,
God.
or they won't accept the pleading.
That is so wrong.
Okay, so what I did was on the 50th birthday, their made-up birthday, I had a murder in, and I murdered Barry Joe Stully. I did that as an action right here as part of the
It's
vigil.
kind of funny.
It was supposed to be funny.
Are you released now? Since
I'm on bail twice.
can you
I was out on bail the first time when I
No, I
killed
mean
Stolly,
not
and I
released.
got arrested again on my way
Not
into City Hall
released
a
from
couple weeks
jail.
later.
Are you released from having to write Stolly,
No,
aka,
no.
because you burned him in effigy?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. Can we get a death certificate for Stolly?
But part of the spectators
Would that do it?
was Central Precinct. We're in the Central Precinct right now, folks. The Central Precinct Commander Day walked by and saw the effigy holding the sign with his entire black. I had a black winter coat that was stuffed. The torso ended. There were no legs on Mr. Stolly.
Aww, poor
from
Mr. Stolly.
It was from the torso
I
up
can see
with
children's
arms.
toys.
The socks.
Mr.
The
Stolly's
socks
got no
were
legs,
hands.
and he's
Were
got
just black socks
hand
sticking out of the
socks.
hands, and the black hand was holding up the sign that said Stolly must die.
Stolly must die.
And there was a little tombstone with the date, the day that he was born, and the day that he was dead, 50th birthday. It was convenient. He died on August 13th, the day he was born. So on his 50th birthday, my friends and I celebrated the death of.
When was this? This was
August 13th, 2012, the 50th birthday of the AKA. they created this August 1962 birth date for the guy.
You know, this reminds
It
me
doesn't
of.
exist.
This reminds me of when we started getting catalogs for like Oneida Silverware or something addressed to a pet.
Right. So what I did was I pranked these folks by right out here in front of City Hall, where we built the structure with the pole just the other day. I pranked them by creating an effigy, and I had a black. The whole thing was entirely black. So except for one day, I saw outside the Justice Center a pair of jail shoelaces where somebody just got out of jail and left these shoelaces. So I took them and a couple of safety pins, and I cut white, and I made X's where the eyes were.
Right.
So that's all it was.
That's
entirely
adorable.
black with X's.
I really do want to make a line of children's. Now, let me see if I got this right. It's Stolly must die on the sock hand of a legless puppet with X's for eyes.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
So if anybody is listening who is able to replicate Stolly dolls,
it was all black, 2 X's for eyes.
It really
white
sounds
X's
more
for
like
eyes.
a pillow.
Maybe so, but it was just the height of absurdity to do that. And
I'm gonna make it.
I was reading the paper, and it turns out the chief of police, Reese, and Mike Kuykendall, I believe his name's Mike, Mr. Kuykendall, they were in Bangladesh doing some cop training over there. I thought that was an interesting thing to read in the paper. And so that day when Stolly must die, they're hobnobbing here with the mayor's office, and so the big shot cops are walking by past the effigy on the sidewalk. And the effigy was holding the sign. There were 2 signs. One was "Kill Stolly," and the other one was Stolly must die, and then tombstone, and on the tombstone it said "Good to be dead." The 50-year. It was so economical. The birthday and the death day were exactly the same.
Right.
You know how easy it is to get a stonecutter to make a tombstone when you can use the same letters and numbers over again.
You get a special.
So anyhow,
there's a special.
That's what the irony. That was like, look how stupid this all is. And so I pranked them on that, and lucky for me, Commander Day was one of the people that walked by.
That's
and
amazing.
And they were looking at this thing right out here, and I was crossing the crosswalk. And so when they crossed the crosswalk, I stopped and I explained to them, yeah, see, your guy, happened to be a man, your guy created the AKA. And I just murdered him.
Right.
What are they going to do? I can murder my own AKA.
You are allowed to murder your own
AKA, right? An effigy in the City Hall's front
Or
sidewalk.
you can write off-color books under that name.
Yeah, maybe so. So anyhow, the upshot is as you can see, if you approach this with Article 1, Section 8, which is our really broad You know, live sex shows are legal in Oregon under the Oregon Constitution. You can actually go into a place and
I
pay.
shudder to think of the segue coming.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that I'm for it. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm saying the interpretation under the Oregon Constitution is you can have a
Okay.
place where people
Okay.
pay to watch other people have
Loop
sex.
it in to what you're
Well,
saying.
that's the Article 1, Section 8.
Okay.
The Article 1, Section 26 is that we get to petition our government for redress of grievances. We get to do this kind of vigil thing. We get to inform our legislatures, right? We can do all these things. So the combination of the two is the vigil temple with Grifflon and a burning candle. The combination of the two is our information box with the schedule for the public hearing.
What part of vigil is live sex show?
It's the Oregon Constitution has broad expression. We don't have free speech. We don't have freedom of the press. That's under the United States Constitution. We have free expression. So when I make Stully, Stully is as protected as a live sex performance that's under the Oregon Constitution. That's what I'm saying. We have very liberal Oregon Constitution that prohibit our government. The
Right.
Section 26 is no law shall prohibit, and then it goes on to say the inhabitants of the state. It doesn't say people
Residents or
citizens,
right?
It's
inhabitants.
right? So the folks that are on this sidewalk are every bit inhabitants.
Did you
as the
know
people on
that
the
the
West
voters pamphlet, item number 1, that I just got, said homeless people can vote? Just to clarify.
Coast? Yeah.
I mean, that's the first item in the pamphlet as far as directions on like
Okay.
residency.
I'm registered to vote at a whatever we're going to politically correct and gender neutralized manhole cover. That's the intersection that's closest to where I've been camping for 2 years. Oh, newsflash! Free Camp David W. Crowther. I started 2 years ago on the undeveloped right of way.
Yeah.
No, it's gone.
Yeah.
And you know that posting that we have at City Hall windows? It says shelter is available. This is an illegal campground.
Okay, that's
They
so
didn't put that.
disgusting.
They did not put that where my camp was established for 2 years, where everybody in the neighborhood knew it. I'm on the board of the neighborhood association in that neighborhood as the person that's been camping there for 2 years.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, here's the punchline. We went up with my agent to 1900 Southwest 4th, where I'm excluded, and we got the city's aerial photographs, or whether it's satellite or however they facilitated that, but the bird's eye view shows my shelter. It's gone. My orange pants, they're gone. My medical records, they're gone.
You lost your orange pants.
I
mean,
lost when I got
your
out,
medical records are really more important. But
when
I'm
I got
kind
out of jail. When I got out
they're
of jail,
kind of a
Mary,
monument around here.
Mary, when I got out of jail, my entire possessions were the things I had on me when I crossed the plaza to go in to give my 3-minute communication. Other than that, I had
I can't believe you just
I
lost
had
your
my
camp.
mandolin that somebody was playing over here at the park, and so they were watching it for me.
Thank God
And I
for that.
handed 99 my bike bag, my bike messenger bag.
I can't believe you lost everything.
But everything else I lost.
I had no idea.
No, this has been
You
going
spent
on.
okay, you spent 40 minutes talking about the buildings you were excluded, and now you're just telling me that you lost your whole camp.
No. I lost my Library of Congress research when my apartment was cleared illegally
Yeah.
in 2006.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
so this is not,
You're used to this?
No.
I
I
wouldn't
don't
think
accept
so.
it.
No, of course
Am
not.
I used to it? No. But look, I was arrested 2011, August, October. Each time of jailing, August, October, November, December. Then again this year, February. Everything from that, every one of those arrests, every one of going to get my personal property from the property room when they opened after the weekend, right? So whatever the dates might have been. Okay, August, October, November, December, February, the sole product was a $50 fine. I was found guilty of pulling the red handle on the stop max as I hit the boarding woman passenger, propelled from behind by the sheriff deputy transit cop, whose charges, other than that, didn't stick in court. So there I was, arrested. August, October, November, December, February. Not guilty. I have neuropathy from handcuffs.
You were arrested
I'm a
5 times, not
musician.
guilty?
Huh?
You
No,
were,
I got a guilty for pulling the red handle
but
as
you
I
were
hit the
arrested 4
boarding.
times, not guilty?
Well, and that was the only thing. The other charges that the cop, his reason for projecting me into the boarding woman passenger that caused me to pull the handle, not guilty. Pulling the handle, guilty on appeal.
That doesn't make any sense that they would find you guilty of that after they already established that he shouldn't have even been. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's why it's on appeal.
Oh, you're on appeal now?
Right. So anyhow, that's the sole guilty product.
Which you should be able to beat.
Okay, now, before this, I'm excluded from the Bureau of Labor and Industry Civil Rights Division. I was arrested there twice. First time I did a violation trial, failure
Okay,
to
but
appear.
I don't want
The
an
second
inventory of
time-
the places you're excluded
No,
or your
second
arrests.
time, not guilty.
Oh.
Still excluded.
Oh, right.
Trial before a judge, the trespass exclusion when they arrested me, not guilty. They currently are acting as if they have an exclusion that's valid. I already beat them in court.
That actually is a theme around here, is where we've already shown that their interpretations are invalid or their practices are illegal, and they continue to do them.
Yes.
That's a real pattern around here.
So my problem is, in 2009, as a person with a disability, I got on the Housing Authority of Portland, as it was known, list. I finally got to the bottom of the list in 2012. My housing application, my arrest record. They go by your arrest record. They don't go by your not guilty record.
Really? Can you get that fixed?
That's the Housing Authority of Portland. They renamed themselves as Home Forward.
Home forward.
So if you look at the case law for
Home reverse.
Housing Authority of Portland, you find out all the civil rights violation that agency did. But we have Commissioner Nick Fish, who apparently doesn't have a Wikipedia page, and now they have a new name. So you don't have to worry about the racist history of the Housing Authority of Portland, because Nick Fish renamed it Home Forward.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Now I'm hungry and I have some bananas and I'm going to eat them.
There you have it. We have Ben's phone. I haven't seen him since he came back and laid down, apparently. Is that him over there? Is he back?
Can you find him and stick that next to him?
Well, no. If that's him moving in his bag, yes. But can I go find him out in the world and stick this next to him?
if it's him.
I will run in there. Okay, so there's the story.
Do you realize that I have to go back? I have to drive again. I'm going to run out of gas. She's helping me. She's asleep. All right. So I actually have to drive again.
The struggle continues. Enjoy the struggle. I didn't have a choice to do 60 flights of stairs. I had that as a coping mechanism.
I could actually walk, but I am so cold.
Mary, how come you're so cold?
I am cold.
I
feel like my hair is
Colonel
wet.
said. He sees 99 over here sleeping. He says, why didn't he cover up with a blanket? And I said, because he's hardening himself to these conditions. It's not cold for him. He's adapted.
Right.
Anybody else that comes out in it from the cold, from the warm comfort of whatever heated environment there is, doesn't realize that the human body adapts to cold conditions.
Interesting.
Yeah, to a certain event, the way you're comfortable. I've been out.
He talked. You know what? I just did a clip of him. You know how I edit these videos? I put the whole thing on, and then I put clips that are more poignant or funny, or you know, we need them for evidence.
Highlights, maybe in your column.
Yeah. This is the YouTube highlights channel. So there's 2 YouTube channels. But on this clip, I had he was talking about that, and it was in like survival. Jiro did it. He interviewed him, and it was called like Survival by 99, Outdoor Survival or something, Street Survival. And what he was advocating for is for people that they want to get out of this condition. So instead of building yourself comfort, you want to make it as uncomfortable as you can stand and still be okay, so that you get yourself out of your condition. So he was suggesting that people not spend all their time making the most comfy little hole they can, because what they need is to either work or have something that they're doing to get them out of their situation. So
I'm
it was,
not convinced, seeing what I've seen over the years, that anything really other than this action. This is what we've come down to.
you
We've
haven't
done,
seen anything except for this action. What?
well, we have to change our thinking processes. And like I said, the yurt village is permitted under state law. There's no prohibition that's keeping the city of Portland from doing
I'm
that.
really interested in that.
And like I said, ORS 466.265.
You know, I've been wanting to live in a yurt.
Right? That's what
I'm
it is. That's
happy when I'm
Oregon
in a
Revised
yurt.
Statute. Now, the other thing is Oregon Revised Statute 203.077, and that's the section that says, hey, my camp with my pants and every other thing I had, that's got to be posted when they 24-hour notice, and there's got to be my opportunity to claim my property. And apparently, it's so bureaucratic. I finally tracked down that the city of Portland apparently has what they call a homeless container, and not having a phone.
I went to that to get our green boxes. That was in up by the Lloyd Center, or not Lloyd Center, Convention Center up that way.
Well, here's the thing for me. So I left a voicemail saying I don't have a telephone, I have an email, I want to know where my stuff is, and then I check my inbox, and there's a thing saying you can meet Officer Tyler at the Stanton Yard at 9 o'clock. Great. What's the Stanton Yard? Where's that at? Okay, I didn't check the email, and then I get a second. Officer Tyler waited for you for 30 minutes at your appointment. I never confirmed my appointment.
Right.
But they went out there, and when I didn't show up, okay, so anyhow, they didn't tell me where the Stanton Yard was.
It was really out of the way too. I mean, you have to. They gave me directions, and it sounded like this.
They didn't give me the
you
address.
go to this place, but instead of going to this address, go to the other side of the building, which is this address. And as you're facing it, look to your right, and there's a gate, and then there's some blackberries. Then go down the hill and under the underpass to the opposite side of the street, and that's where Stanton Yard is. Then when you walk in, the first shipping container you see will be unlocked, and just open it up and get your stuff out. And so we open it up, and we've got it all on film, and there are these boxes just piled in like trash. All of our signs were all crumpled up. All of our political protest, everything was just thrown in like trash with no lock. And, you know, these are valuable. This, you know, the materials themselves, without the metal components, which were the expensive portions, the materials, you know, were about $150. That's what we spent.
Mm-hmm.
But 60s labor, let me put it this way. Effing boxes was all the text I got from 60. Ever so often, he would just blow steam, because the boxes are really difficult to construct because the way he made them so that they would be waterproof. And they are special. These things are waterproof. He has coated them inside to make them mildew proof. You know, in one case there was a drawer that we could lock so that we could keep, you know, the butane and the propane and everything separately. You know, because he realized that we would be digging around in this really, you know, tall box.
Yeah.
It was very, very thoughtful. And so these boxes, when they threw them in like trash, they were throwing something really important to me to be throwing in like trash. All of our First Amendment, all of these things about redressing our grievance, you know, and also we had been feeding people and giving them blankets and tarps. You know, this all these carts were this humanitarian mission. That's not what they were designed for. That's not what they were commissioned for by us.
Right.
It
That was
just
just a
what
product that
happened,
came out of the environment.
and as it happened, it turned into a really beautiful thing.
Right.
Right now, they're being repurposed yet again, and the repurpose is a thorn in the side of this illegal activity government, where they took our last cart, and now they're going to find that this morning they're going to wake up and say, "What's this? I'm sorry, I know that you illegally seized the first one, so we had to put another one here."
Right.
But they're holding that property because they said we had to know the serial number. The serial number on a handmade, unique trailer, that we would have to have a serial number or he wouldn't give it back. He's being a total child. Steve Cohen.
And who's Steve Cohen?
PBOT. Portland Bureau of Transportation. That's who sawed that lock and took our trailer off that bike. So,
Oh, well, that's nice to know that we know who did it.
yeah. That's the person in charge of doing it. I don't think
Right.
he was the one who sawed the lock. It was a
Right.
lackey, but
Yeah.
yeah, so he told Colonel on the phone, "Oh, you can't have it because you have to produce the serial number." And it's a wooden handmade box.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
serial number. It's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, on a happy note of the serial number.
This one has a
listing,
serial number, by the way.
I had for 25 years
As ridiculous
a
as that is.
mandolin that, like you're talking about, was handmade here in Portland, and all it said on the inside was Jim Pryor, Portland, Oregon, and that was made over 30 years ago. And when I got in the ambulance on November 13th, the day of the eviction, before the eviction, I pressed into Sergeant Bacigalupi's hand the same thing that was written on the side of the tent, the same thing that I pressed into Nick Fish's hand, the housing commissioner and the parks commissioner, the day before. ORS 203.077 @sec. And what that @sec means, that starts there and keep following and start reading and go until you get to wherever else is after that. And it's about the humane removal of homeless camp. It's an Oregon statute, and it talks about the process and the procedure and about the tagging.
Where they have to have
notice,
joined come in and give everyone an opportunity
and
to
the notice
relocate.
and the storage of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in the ambulance, and my mandolin and my tent and all its contents was destroyed. The mandolin that I had for 25 years. I played that mandolin on C-SPAN. I came back to Portland from Washington, D.C., and my phone rang, and a guy says, "Hi, I'm calling from Alaska. I saw you on C-SPAN, and I tracked you down." They threw that handmade, no serial number thing out. I tracked down through the city, and having a disability, I went through Danielle Brooks over here at the Portland building and had an interview with her, and she sent me an email and said, "Go to the Portland Police Property Warehouse," because I asked Lieutenant King what happened to my stuff. And the upshot is they took my property to the dump. So I went in November of last year, or maybe it was, it took me weeks to find out where it was, but the upshot is I went to go where the city of Portland told me to go get my stuff, and it wasn't there. That's very hurtful.
I can't believe they threw a mandolin in the dump. Well, after watching my friends recount the story of Officer Palmater taking out a large blade and popping balloons, and having then the security Steve come out with a pin and start popping balloons like Officer Palmater couldn't complete the job himself, like little children that they are, I can believe that they did that. I mean, it's just, you know what? I gotta tell you something else. You know why Ernie's concerned about coming here? Because we have a dog, and we would take the dog, and he's afraid that they'll screw with the dog. Because they targeted Bodie by bringing a dog catcher the day that they arrested 99 for the boxes.
boxes. No.
The box is over there,
Where?
right there, Chapman.
Oh, they arrested 99 over there?
Yep. No. I guess they arrested him here. They arrested
I was
because
present when
he came back. He came back to City Hall, didn't he? He was arrested
Wait,
at City Hall.
I was there when it happened.
Okay, but you know that right before then, at Chapman, they showed up, including Susan
Billard.
Biagini. Yeah, Susan Billard.
Okay, guess what? She's not a sergeant. She's working on it.
Okay, I just said Susan Biagini.
Yes.
Susan Billard.
Yes.
No, that woman came with a dog catcher specifically to bully Bodie. Well, guess what? It worked. That was it for him. Bodie didn't want his dog taken. He was going in the next day or so to get the free shot clinic or whatever it is. And I don't know if something happened where he couldn't do it, but maybe he just felt like they were just going to freak out and do it anyway. But they went after him because he was serving in a sort of leadership capacity. He was part of the nuts and bolts of the operation.
Yeah.
And so they went after him by bringing along a dog catcher to harass him. And so I don't blame Ernie for thinking that maybe our dog isn't safe. If we were to bring our dog down here, that they might mess with him. You know, he can't just go and be screwed with. He's an older dog. He was just hurt recently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so this is our baby. But it's when he said that, I was like, honey, what happened to us? Were you always like this with police? And he's like, no, this is a first. To think that they would maliciously hurt us by going, to hurt our dog.
Well,
or to take our dog or whatever.
What they call that, and we do it too, it's called primary and secondary targets. If you can influence, if you're a cop and you're trying to get somebody to do something, and you can threaten the taking their children, or you can threaten the taking of something else, then they put the squeeze on people, and we do too, because we are impacting the City of Portland employees. Now, the City of Portland employees that know my legacy and my history and everything that's going on, they are being informed and educated by what we're doing and what they're watching.
Right.
So today,
so every time we have a cop come out in front of City Hall and pop balloons, and have Steve come out and join him and pop balloons,
or yell, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Right. This is so this is a purpose for me, for Occupy, as far as waking people up. All we're doing is giving them the rope to hang themselves on. The more somebody is cocky, the more evil they are, the more powerful, abuse of power they are, the dumber and more blatant, and the harder they fall. And so,
well, can I make a comment about a city employee tonight? Commissioner Amanda Fritz, city employee. I told her, because I got out to the candidates forum late, but I got to talk to her, and I told her about how they had taken our supply box. They had tagged it as an abandoned.
Right.
And she said, that wasn't abandoned, you were using it. So Commissioner Fritz knew that we were using that as part of our petition effort and our protest, and she knew that their claim that it was abandoned was not right. And that's what I'm saying is our primary and secondary targets. We're influencing the actual literal employees, the mechanics that come in there to take care of the building.
This is what our city really is like.
Staff.
And the thing is like, we're not making up this situation. This is a mirror of what is happening to people who are houseless and people who are standing up for justice. So it is not just us who are getting this treatment. We're just merely giving them a chance to do this in the broad daylight with people who have some resources, perhaps, instead of... Okay, so here's another thing I'm concerned about. Mm-hmm. I won't say who, but I was really worried when I didn't see a friend I saw him. Somebody told me that a couple of cops came and talked to him, and then he was gone.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought, my God, did he get talked to? Like, you better distance yourself, or we're going to tear up your camp, or those kind of things.
Hmm.
How many people are on the street who might be protesters or who might stand up for their rights, except for the fact that on that beat, there's some cop who knows where they have something that is of value to them, like, say, a dog that they're still waiting for a license for, or a camp that they have, a stash, a squad or something.
Like my place.
Or kids that they might be able to screw around with and see if they can find a reason to take them. And those people are being silenced. So I think it's really imperative that something that was born out of the movement here in Portland, that we are an integrated community. Because while you may be able to do that with some of my friends, you can't do it with me. And whatever you can do with me to get to me, you can't do to this other person. So whatever manipulation they can do to an individual, they certainly can't do to all of us all of the time.
Hey, guess what? I got a mandolin. It's not my mandolin. My friends, knowing that the police destroyed my mandolin, got on Craigslist, researched it, took me over to the guy's house, said, "We're buying this mandolin." And they did. So I would have a mandolin.
You have a song on our YouTube, and it is beautiful.
I don't know.
It was Munjin and
Yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, and I was listening to Colonel and Robert tonight, and I was thinking, I got to get these guys a gig. Topher and Juliana's 1-year anniversary. They were married in the camp, right?
Okay. Your friends.
Not my friends, my people. My friend is the guy today. I watched him stick his finger in some food, and the gal who had set the food out, I told her about that. And she says, "Oh, that's gross." And I said, "You think we should throw it out?" And another gal who was there that wanted to eat it because it was pesto, she says, "No, that's okay." Because she was willing to eat it after the guy's finger had been in it, because she's kind of hard pressed, and for her that's not such a big deal. And so she wanted to eat it, even though the guy just rudely stuck his finger in the food and just stuck it, to eat it.
She probably had kids who had birthday cake at some point in her life.
Well, anyhow,
You have to get rid of...
the guy who did that today knocked over the vigil twice.
That's the same guy?
Yeah.
You know who that guy is?
Yeah.
Who is that guy?
They got him on the security video.
What's his name?
I don't know his name.
What's he look like?
He looks like the guy in the. He looks like the guy who did it. I know who the guy is, but what I'm saying
is he here now?
No, but he
Good.
is in a psychotic episode.
Oh.
He's mentally ill.
Oh.
He needs mental health treatment.
Why would he turn over the vigil table?
Because he needs mental health.
That's the end all. There's no explanation except for the fact that he's sick.
Mentally ill, right?
Oh.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, when any of these people do these absolutely insane things that are socially unacceptable, are they my friends? Yeah. Do those things make me not like them? Yeah. Do I appreciate that they're a person that's sick? Yeah.
Right.
But I still don't like the fact that the vigil got dumped over, or the food got the finger in it. Right?
You just reminded me of this comedian. He goes, I don't understand why people are they're like, what are you, stupid? And he's like, well, what if they are? I mean, what if they're not quite, mentally retarded, but they're just about there, so technically they're just really stupid. Why don't people have a little compassion, like, oh, he's stupid.
Yeah.
But instead we hate on the stupid people.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. At what point do you have to cross a certain line
before you can be treated
before
with
you're
respect.
treated nicely, and
Well,
that made me laugh.
well, on that note, one of our free expression in Oregon was it was the Portland Cacophony Society, and one of the actions that they did, it was an April Fool's Day. They
I
went to
know
Pioneer
Annie
Courthouse.
loves those people.
They went to Pioneer Courthouse Square, and they had a protest. Fools against April Fool's Day because it was disparaging to fools.
Yeah, Annie from Cebu. Annie from Cebu
Yeah,
likes them.
yeah. So
She's a trip. I love that woman so much. I can't even contain it in my heart right now.
Teresa Mitchell is her. Well, I don't know how it happened, but they are the only same-sex married couple in Oregon.
Are you serious?
Ani Haynes and Steve Mitchell were married, and Steve Mitchell is now Teresa Mitchell.
Oh, and they didn't
They're
invalidate
they're
their
still married.
they didn't invalidate their
How could they?
wedding. Oh my God.
How could they?
That's so fabulous.
The issue is, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to try DES as a pharmaceutical that
Okay.
Teresa Mitchell now was.
And is this private or is this public?
He's a Cebu news reporter. He's talked about these issues, but what happens is
So no, I mean, as Teresa, is Teresa talking about this openly in public?
Yes, because that's
Okay.
the whole issue. Is that the pharmaceutical drug causes the condition where literally there's a woman trapped inside a man's body.
Interesting.
And that's what they're talking about. The pharmaceutical that his mother was given. Just like we had thalidomide,
Yeah, right. Dalamide or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's the wacky world we live in.
Wow.
And so when we talk about some things, we get some things to talk about.
Yeah.
But,
no, that's fantastic,
but they're
though,
both great people.
They're married and that they're...
Teresa drives a TriMet bus.
No, that's interesting. I know that there's a lot of people who are very sympathetic to some of the TriMet workers' plight. I have to go, so say goodbye to Barry. Barry, wave at the nice people.
Hi, this is Barry Joe Stahl. You can watch me on
AKA
YouTube.
Stolly.
Yeah, AKA Stolly.
I'm going to make that pillow. If anybody wants to make that pillow, you can bring it down to City Hall. Please make it care of either Stolly or Mary.
Oh, and I have 6 criminal trials pending, but the earliest possible would be Monday, the week of Thanksgiving.
Right. He tried to make a smattering of dates so that you could RSVP easily, because we want you to be able to attend. Okay, you guys.
Yeah.
Which date is your next one?
No, the earliest that I could possibly have a trial on the July, and August arrests would be no sooner than November 19th as a trial date.
Okay, so we will have plenty of time to get ourselves together for your trial. And
And the issue is really there's two things about that. Is if I have a consolidated trial, everybody will see that this whole thing that happened in a week, it was just a
persecution,
unending, sleep deprivation because of being in jail and being arrested and all this other stuff, taking my medical marijuana twice during the week, which is my best treatment option, and then subjecting me to this string of emotionally troubling police responses, right? So anyhow, the one thing is, should a jury hear that all at once, or will they be prejudiced, and should they hear each of them individually? Only the future will tell what strategies.
What do you want?
You know what I want?
Do you want them to be together or separate?
Here's what I want. As a person that's been arrested so many times and been found not guilty so many times, and I want a modeling on a friend of mine And as horrid as this sounds, I'm going to say it. She was raped by her stepfather at 5 years old, and that abuse continued until she was raped by that same stepfather at 12 years old, and she stomped him really hard in the penis, and that never happened again. So I'm hoping that after all this series of 11 arrests in a year, that they are slammed so bad by the public that they just back off and stop taking me to jail once a month.
Yeah.
They need to be spanked.
Well, you know,
really
the
hard.
Department of Justice might take care of that in a big way for all of Portlanders who are being harassed by police.
Well, the irony of that is I was on the phone with Amanda Marshall at the United States Attorney's Office, Civil Rights Division, telling her what happened the week before I was arrested 5 times in July. And listening to that conversation was my escort, Harry Jackson, at Portland City Hall. Yeah.
I got to
Good
tell you
night,
something.
folks.
I have to tell you. I have to tell you something about Harry Jackson.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's a local hero.
He is.
He's being a jerk to us, but I am trying to kind of give him a modicum of respect for what he's done and who cares about him in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's the primary and secondary target.
it's
He
a
is
little
not-
difficult
He is
when
not.
he behaves like a child.
But I don't believe that he is willing to risk his well-earned reputation. He's got a Harry Jackson Plaza named
Yeah, I
after him
know.
up in Alberta,
I
right?
know.
Okay.
It's a beautiful plaza.
So-
The thing is that Harry Jackson has all these bigoted, weird ideas, and they're solid in stone. He's got this crystallized learning thing. He believes what he believes, and you can't tell him otherwise, and he's very disrespectful to us, and he's out to get us because, you know what he told me?
Money.
He told me that it's not okay to change the law by going to court, just like the people that were trying to prosecute Moses said, oh, this isn't a valid, you should go to meetings. Like all the homeless people should go to meetings, as Ernie
Oh,
said.
the way you get your government to change isn't by showing that the laws that they have are unconstitutional by challenging them in court. The
Yeah.
way to get them to change is to go to the legislature or the city council
Okay, so-
that produced the unconstitutional legislation
Right.
and have them do it right.
Right,
this
or to
time.
vote on it and try to get it on the ballot.
And
But the
let's-
thing that's
let's
really
try and
funny
do it right
is,
this
okay,
time, yeah.
so here's what's funny about this. Okay, this is a black man talking to a woman. Now, men got the right to vote, black men, before women, like 50 years before, or some crazy number of years before that women could vote. And yet, if Susan B. Anthony hadn't defied the law, I would never have a chance to do voting or to vote in a representative. So in Harry Jackson's world, where it's not okay to disobey and fight,
yeah, they don't believe
I
in
would actually
nonviolence.
never be
Yeah.
able to vote.
Yeah.
So he's telling me that the only legitimate way for me to do anything is to vote, and that is only available to me because of this most legitimate way, which is to stand up for what you believe and take it to a judge instead of letting a puny little authority bully you and try to take away your rights by eroding them. So I really think it's a matter of education and maybe him needing to broaden, but I feel like maybe he's old enough and set in stone that we're not gonna be able to, reach that. He's not gonna open his eyes to this. The only time somebody is gonna open their eyes is when they see somebody persecuted in front of them in a way that is just so incomprehensible, and that has happened to me. I had a belief, and then that was shattered. And I can name the days when that happened, about what I thought about police.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's so that because I am at a protest, peacefully demonstrating by sleeping, so that I was in solidarity with people who were houseless and trying to, walk a day in the shoes, even though it's nothing the same, because I know I can go home. But just to be in some solidarity here and to protest this treatment. That my husband and I are afraid that we would have our dog possibly harmed by a venomous, petty police officer.
Yeah.
How far we've fallen in our feeling that cops were there for justice or for
To protect us, sir.
peace.
Well,
Yeah. I
I,
mean, I know a lot of people never had that. I guess that's my privilege in how I grew up, that I had that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood belief about police officers.
that, well, um, just briefly, I learned because of one of the corrections deputies that Warren Cook retired from the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office in the year 2000. I had him as an instructor, where he was an instructor for Portland Community College, and then when I was a student there in 1996, I took the electives which were offered as part of the Criminal Justice Certificate program, and I had him for the police class and the corrections class. And he was a sheriff, so he's kind of a cop, and he was at one point the commander of the Multnomah County Inverness Jail. And with 30 years experience with the Multnomah County Sheriff, he started both of those classes with, we don't have a justice system, we have an injustice system. If you need to know any more, there's a book, The Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Prison. And that's what I was taught by my instructor at Portland Community College, who had 30 years experience with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. We do not have a justice system, we have an injustice system. The rich get richer and the poor get prison. So knowing that, if that's the way it is, I don't have to take all this illegal stuff and the disappearance of my property and the disappearance of my civil rights and my disability. I cannot book a lecture series on any of the things that my training and experience qualifies me to do, because I can't book anything, because I've got now 6 criminal trials.
Right. Right.
Even if I'm
You
found not
can't go to
guilty,
New
like all the other,
Jersey. I remember.
like all these other arrests, there's a court date, and if I don't show up, I get a failure to appear.
Right. Right.
So, but I
But
do
it's
know.
interesting that you had that presented to you that way. And say that again, because I'm gonna end the
Yeah.
video on that. What did he say?
Okay.
He said there's not a
War,
justice system.
Warren Cook, who had 30 years at the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office as an employee, and he was at one point the commander of the Inverness Jail. And I had him as a Portland Community College instructor in the Criminal Justice Certificate program, and I took 2 classes as electives, police and corrections. And one was about police forces, and the other one was about jail forces or prison, jail people. So anyhow, he started his classes by this, and I was actually shocked when he did it the second class. He said the same thing. We do not have a justice system. We have an injustice system, and if you need to know more about that, there's a book, The Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Prison.
Wow. Okay, you guys, I'm going to sign out. This has been a very long and mostly for our own entertainment, but we appreciate you being here. And we will archive it to YouTube. And there's a couple of points out here I think that are really cool. I'm going to pull them to our little highlights channel. Please go, if you're not already on there, to vigiltv.com and check out. And we have a Twitter, we have a donations link, we have suggestions for things that you can send to the Vigil. Even if you are not even in this state, we have a way for you to help keep the people out here safe, warm, dry, or even, to kick in for some candles or something like that. So if you want to help the Vigil, we would welcome that. What else do we have on that website besides our videos and our contact info and that? I guess that's about it. It's pretty succinct. Twitter. So anyway, we'll take care of you guys. Thanks for joining us.